baby.
Good call on the unmute.
Manual edition here. What is up, everybody? Welcome into training camp edition of the DMVR Nuggets podcast.
Let's go.
Let's go. The vibes. We're faking the vibes, guys. We're in a hotel room. But there it is. I guess hit on that one there.
He was waiting to see if I could muster enough strength to do an air horn,
And he's like, "This is
I
pathetic."
couldn't. He had to come in with the save.
Let me find. Let me find what's going on here, guys. As you can see, we are in a hotel, a disclosed location, a hotel room in San Diego. As we come out here to cover Denver Nuggets training camp, day one availability today. And I got to say, actually, Harrison, I feel like it was content rich. I just went. I had to go back through and transcribe everything. You know, kind of take all the notes. Yeah. As I was going through, I was like, "Man, this is good. This is going to be a good thing to talk about."
Day one of training camp. Hope springs eternal.
So, how would you grade? So yesterday the vibes were 10 out of 10. How would you grade the vibes today?
Definitely not 10 out of 10. Media day vibes for the Nuggets this year were just
off the charts.
So immaculate.
Yeah,
never seen anything like it.
You can't really compare them.
Yeah, it's incomparable. Training camp day one. I don't think it was the best vibes from a training camp day one I've ever experienced. Probably not the worst. Probably somewhere in the middle. I'd say a 7 out of 10.
I would go higher than that. I think what you were talking about is basically, don't put me on kill, by the way. I just wanted to have it up so I could see it in front of me. I think what you're talking about is Michael Malone, who, by the way, was in a car accident. And you made note of this today, that after practice, he was always in a car accident last week. After practice, doing some back stretches, like doing some Michael
Malone was getting his knee wrapped with ice after the practice today.
So I say all of that and he also talked about, I believe he talked about having a surgery or some kind of injury or something over to a summer. So he's had a physically eventful off season. And I was sitting here as we were talking before we went live about just your kind of read on Michael Malone today. Maybe not grouchy, but just maybe like lower vibes than everybody else. He's probably just in pain, man.
Maybe.
I'm telling you, he's probably just in pain going through all this different stuff, and that adds a unique layer to it.
I mean, he said that car accident was a week ago.
Yeah, but car accident. Have you been in a car accident?
Luckily, not one where it sounds like it's been that.
What kind of car accident have you been in?
Tell us. Minor stuff.
Little minor?
Yeah, minor.
Whose fault was it?
I mean, that's up to the judge and jury. I'm not here to deliberate past events. You know, that's in the past. Case closed.
Yeah, we know it was your fault.
But nothing major.
It happens, man. It happens.
But that was only a week ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems like he was really shaken up by that, so he's probably still feeling the effects.
Do you ever have, I mean, this is like how it is. Like, say you're going on a vacation or something, and in your mind, you know what it looks like. And then something happens to like completely throw out, you get sick or something like this. And you're like, man, I didn't picture that. It's honestly probably he guys all summer, he's planning on this training camp. And all of a sudden you have this wreck and you're like, crap, I didn't picture myself being in pain for the entirety of this.
It's go time. All your attention's focused on the task at hand. And all of a sudden you've got just this other huge thing.
So today we talked with Jamal Murray. You talked with Bruce Brown. And we talked with Christian Braun, and then we talked with Michael Malone. And I pretty much all of today is going to be going over that because I felt like there was enough from it. Obviously, this was Jamal Murray's first day back at practice, and kind of both an important day, but also I think more an important symbolic day, as we'll kind of get into. So we can cut the chit chat and kind of get into some of these notes. I felt like Michael Malone's notes were the most interesting, but I know what the people are tuned in for. They're tuned in for Jamal Murray. They want to hear from him as he goes through the first full day to set the tone. Very nice campus here in San Diego.
You're impressed. This is my second year here.
It's your second year.
This is your first time.
Well, my point was, like, it is funny when you talk about needing more space. Like, this space is enormous. It's actually too big. I don't think
5 total courts.
Yeah, I don't think they're using all the court. I think they've roped off some courts of like, we don't even need this many courts.
There's 5 courts in one building under one roof.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
But it is really nice. So it does, like, I don't think the reason I'm bringing this up is when you get into a season, teams don't practice. Here's what's interesting about a training facility or a practice facility. You need it for training camp. The rest of the year, you have 10 guys practicing once every 3 weeks. You go out there. You basically do walkthroughs. Half the times you're doing a walkthrough, it's on the main court anyway.
Yeah, most teams really don't even practice that much after the first 3 months of the season anyway.
So it is an interesting little dynamic. I mean, there's a lot of different things. But obviously, when you're here, there's so many different – there's not just the, like, 15 guys that you have. You've also got the G League guys, the Exhibit 10s. You've got so many different trainers. Andre Miller was in the house today
with a boot on his foot.
Man,
another injury to the coaching staff.
The coaching staff's very banged up at the
Yeah.
moment. It's a very banged up coaching staff.
Yeah, Andre Miller, I don't know what the injury was, but walked in the gym with a boot on his foot.
So anyway, that's just to say that the people that were in the gym today, honest to God, I'm not even exaggerating, 50 people today inside the gym when you all told. Some of that's altitude and
you got the whole G League staff too, the trainers and stuff from there.
And then you got your biometrics people that are doing they have their own thing.
People from University of California, San Diego.
You have a couple of those
milling around, not really probably doing anything.
But the reason I bring this up is because this is not a typical practice where it's like 18 guys and 10 coaches or whatever. There's just so many people around right now that it's sort of a circus. And it's actually funny. One of the things I do is I kind of walk, like Peyton Watson's never been through this. And I can tell Peyton Watson doesn't know like who's media, who's a coach. You know what I mean? Like these guys are new. So they're kind of walking around like he's like, am I supposed to talk to this guy?
Right. Am I supposed to be cool with this guy?
Yeah,
am I supposed to just ignore this guy? Like, am I supposed to leave? Am I supposed to stay? First bus, second bus. What does that mean?
Right. All those things. The important stuff with Jamal Murray, I want to get into his quotes today. Once again, my number one thing on Jamal Murray, we talked about how yesterday he seemed so grateful to be back and all those different things. I thought the exact same thing today, man. Like he just seems in such a good spirit just to be out there.
Yeah.
Just to be out there. And it's like, hey, man, like I do think there's something to this. When something's taken away from you, the work aspect of it becomes so much more entertaining. And I think that's where he's at right now, where he's like, practice hard. Yeah, I loved it. Well, is it like any of the stuff that you probably used to not like, he's like loving right now. And even talking to media, like he even was asked this. Somebody was like, you missed us, didn't you? And he was like a little bit or something like that. Like usually he'd be like, come on, like I hate you guys. But he was kind of like a little bit. I did.
That was the tell. That was the truth.
Yeah, that was the real truth for him.
But like Jamal's just checking off one box at a time right now. Media day, check. First practice, check.
Right.
Soon it will be first scrimmage, check. First game.
Yeah.
Boom.
He did say there's still a few hurdles to get through, though. Everything for him right now, to your point, is a little checkbox. But, as we try to read the tea leaves, nobody ever gives you just a straight up answer. Nobody can really see. You can't even say, like, what % are you at? It doesn't really make sense. But you keep getting these little things. He's like, yeah, there are some hurdles. He said he feels good. Maybe the number one note from Jamal Murray today, and you have to pay attention to these things when they get reiterated 3-4 times in the course of one scrum. He just kept saying there's a lot of new guys, of new guys. Everything today was trying to get on the same page. He said the practice had lots of turnovers, but it is a good way. This wasn't like a complaint. This was kind of just like, hey, man, everybody was going so hard. Everybody was playing so fast, and nobody really has chemistry yet. So like it led to day one. Understandably a lot of turnovers, but the energy was really good. He said good day, high energy. And just it kept emphasizing over and over again. Every time something new would come up, it would like he would end it with, but it's day one and we got a lot of new guys.
Right.
He kept going back to that.
That's a classic day one.
It is a
high energy, but sloppy.
Yeah.
If you were to go back and look at a lot of day one of training camps, that would probably be it.
This practice also went really long today. I think the reason we're so late, we talked about originally, the team will send you out an availability and sometimes they're 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late. On a bad day, they're an hour late. Today, they were like an hour late. I mean, it was really, they got pushed, but we first get an email. It's not going to be 12 guys show up at 1. I don't think we got into the gym till 1:30, 1:40, something like that. So this was a very long first day.
I think it was about 2.5 hour practice.
So for the NBA standards, that's really long. And Jamal said that it was a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense, a little bit of transition, some 5-on-5, some shell drill stuff, terminology,
shell drill, baby,
terminology, and everything else. He said it was a little bit of everything. We got everything done today. So I do feel like this was a pretty massive one. I love this one. He did say that, by the way, we keep trying to figure out Ryan Saunders on board, how much is new. I got a pretty clear impression today. Yeah. Malone, I think, gave even more insight, but Jamal, according to him at least, everything's the same. He said even same terminology. And then he goes, maybe I shouldn't say that, like the same calls and everything. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't even say that. But, there's been some speculation, I know, about how much are things going to change, new defensive guy in, this or that. We'll get into it more with Malone. I don't get the sense that there's radical changes to Denver's defensive approach.
No, not at all. They want to be a top 5 defense, and it seems like they're going to do it with the same game plan that they did last season. But The difference is they just need to be more disciplined. That was also a keyword today.
We'll get Malone again. I think Malone had a lot of really very insightful things. We'll get there, but I want to stick with Yoke here. I love this. Was maybe one of my favorite quotes. Or Murray, one of my favorite ones. He was asked like what he was doing in the offseason when he couldn't do a whole lot, or as he's ramping up. He says he watched a lot of Jokic. I like that. Like he was paying close attention to Jokic, the reads he made, and then here's my favorite part. You know what I love Jamal Murray as a post-up player. He said he was paying close attention to Jokic's footwork on post-ups.
Wow.
And like copying and working on some of his footwork. How great is that?
That's awesome.
I wanted to ask Jamal. I'll have to ask him tomorrow. Like I'm a post guy, Harrison. I love the post. I love good footwork. That's like my favorite thing to watch. I can tell he's a post guy. He just loves footwork. He loves it. He has a special appreciation for it.
No, he's got that like Kobe Bryant mid post fadeaway, pivot jabs. Like he's got that in his toolbox.
Right.
And we were talking about this actually weeks back when do you remember when Jamal put that video out of Joel Rush's where it was just the compilation of his
footwork? You're right.
I actually heard that like there was actually something behind that, and I would not be surprised if Jamal Murray posted up more this year.
Man, I hope so.
I would not be surprised.
Jamal Murray,
keep a little eye out for that.
Sexy post game, man. He's a really good post player for a guard. But then he just kept talking about how he's happy to be back on the court. And one of the things, you know this inherently, but he kept saying how lonely it is when you're in rehab, because he's like, you're there, but you're in the corner, and then like everybody's doing stuff, like you're just kind of in the corner watching everyone practice. And he's like, I'm just
like doing a leg press off to the side.
People ask a lot of the same questions. Like I've only been around Jamal now 2 or 3 times in the last, couple months. And already I see the same questions kind of pop up. And so but he's so gracious with them, because one of the things people keep asking is like, what did you miss the most? And he's like, guys, just like being on the court. Yeah. Like, I don't know. There's just all of it. Just being there is just fun, being part of everybody.
Yeah.
And then of course he said this before, but he's celebrating everything. Here's the important thing though. He was asked point blank, like if he's 100%, and he said he's not 100%. So take that for what you will. Not 100%. It's tough not to be 100%. He says you get moments of encouragement. You make a nice play, or you do something that you used to be able to do, or whatever. But that I thought this was really insightful when we talk about 100%, 80%. Where you at? He said something to the effect of, I'm doing everything that I used to do, but I don't feel the way I used to feel.
Yeah.
Meaning, what I interpreted it to mean was he still will go out and do everything, but maybe he feels a little soreness, or maybe like you go to do something.
We talked about the soreness before.
Yeah, the soreness or this or that. So it's almost, this is why to me, when we talk and try to put a percentage on it, I think it's just impossible to do, because again, like even he probably doesn't know what percentage to put on it. But to me, that hints as much about a mental thing than it does a physical one. Or, I'm sure there's elements of physical to it. I always give the example when I had a heart surgery like 5 years ago. And the sensation I had when the irregularity in my heart was my heart would sometimes beat like I was out of breath. And so then when I actually was out of breath, I kept thinking like, am I out of breath or am I having an episode,
Yeah.
And it becomes a mental thing. And I think with Jamal, it's probably that, like when you go and do something, or you're like, well, that feels sore, but is it sore because I just jumped really hard, or is it sore because it's, you know what I mean? Like it gets a while to where you're just like, oh yeah, sometimes sports are painful, but it's not an injury pain.
Yeah. Well, when you don't do something for so long, you got to reteach your body how to do it. And so it's probably not going to feel normal for him until we're, a couple months into the season.
I get people right now, and again, this is the thing we do in the media, especially when there's no games. Like, again, this stuff becomes so clear as you start to hyper analyze little details in this or that. The one thing I will say is, because I've had people texting me like, what do you think he means by this? Or what do you think? And I'm like, guys, let's just pump the brakes. Who knows? The one thing that gives me confidence is that he just seems so relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look like a guy that's like, somebody sent me, Lonzo Ball, one of my favorite guys, but he's had a knee surgery and now he's going to have another one and all this different stuff. And they're like, Jamal said he was sore at this. Do you think it's the same thing? And again, I don't know, but I don't get the feeling that's the case, because Jamal doesn't cross me as a guy that's sitting there. Jamal crosses me as a guy that's like very confident in where he is,
yeah,
and just knows that the next step can't be done until you go through. You just have to go through the next couple months.
I think back to the end of last season when we talked about every day, is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? He obviously didn't come back. And he said at media day that he feels night and day compared to where he was last season.
Yeah.
And I believe it. I believe it because we obviously didn't talk to him late last season, but just watching him and talking to people, the sense I got was that he wasn't obviously 100% convinced that he was ready to come back.
Right. Of course.
Now he's obviously 100% in.
Right.
He knows deep down that he's ready to go.
Yeah. He was talked after you get through the injury portion of this. He was just talked about. There was a good question. I don't remember whose question it was, but somebody asked, there's so many good scorers on the roster now. There's so many guys that can get points. How do you balance all these different guys? Or something was like, does it make it easier on you having so many other guys out there? And he said, one of the things, and I love this, one of the keys is don't fall into bad habits. Because a lot of times when you have a lot of good scorers, one guy will take a bad shot. And then the next guys are like, well, then now I'll take a bad shot. And then it just snowballs and it's hard to get back. And I love that. That's exactly, I think, the challenge. So it was almost like he was asked, is it great having all these guys? And it was like, yes, but it's a double-edged sword, because then it becomes a little bit easier just to shoot quickly because you're like this or that. And that's the challenge for this team is don't take the good shot, try to get the great one and get everybody. This is going to be a theme that comes up a little bit later.
Yeah, with Malone.
With Malone.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. And then the one guy, this is my last note on Jamal, guys, the one guy that he singled out as being especially helpful for him in the rehab, at least this part. Again, I'm not saying it was the number one most helpful guy, but it's the guy he singled out today. My guy, Darrell Arthur, Oak Cliff's finest,
who is on the Nuggets staff for this year. He's in the gym.
Yeah.
His official title, I was told today, player development coach / pro scout.
Really?
Yeah.
Player development and pro scout.
Yeah.
I love DA, man.
Yeah. Wearing two hats.
Wearing two hats, doing a little bit of everything. But I just thought it was great. He was like, he said Darrell Arthur is the one that's just constantly encouraging him and reminding him of all the check marks. He's like, DA will come over to me and be like, you weren't doing that a month ago, or, little things like that. So I think it's kind of cool. Like, leadership is such a funny thing. With I think about this stuff all the time, obviously, but just us building this network, this DNVR and everything else. But like, those little things can mean so much. Just a little check-in, just a little like, hey man, just think about 3 months ago, like just a reminder. You're not stuck in the mud. You're not in the mire. Like, hey, compare yourself to the past. You're getting better. Stay on the track.
I think it's got to help when it comes from a player too.
Yeah.
Like having ex-players, ex-Nuggets on the staff. Yeah. I love that. So I think that helps too.
Let's take a break. I do want to, we're going to go over Christian Braun and Michael Malone on the other side. But if you guys have questions for us about the training camp, about the Nuggets in general, throw those in the chat. Super producer Kale will be marking the ones that he'll give to us for that final segment. We'll probably have time for a little bit of mailbag, and we'll get to that on the other side. As well as, I'm telling you, Michael Malone had a lot of very interesting things to say.
Breckenridge Brewery has a birthday coming up, 32 years young. To celebrate, Breck Brew is throwing a weekend-long hootenanny. Kick off the fall with live music, food, beer, of course, and games October 8th and 9th at their Littleton location. They've got national acts like the Spin Doctors and local favorites like Railroad Earth rocking out. So stay tuned to everything DNVR for hootenanny giveaways leading up to October 8th. Check out the link in the description or go to breckbrew.com for more details on tickets and the artist lineup. At DraftKings Sportsbook right now, the NFL action is in full swing. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win. Get $200 in free bets if they do. If that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. For every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. Make sure to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code DNVR to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. When you place a $5 bet on any football game, that's code DNVR. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
All righty, back here, segment 2. We can get into Michael Malone. about what he had to say.
Yeah.
Players are insightful in certain ways, but Malone's always the one that's like trying to set the tone. What are you doing here?
I was trying to change it so it's just not my name on there. I forget.
It doesn't matter. Come on, man. It doesn't matter. People are saying he looks swole. Is it the camera? Is it the weights?
Camera adds 10 pounds. We know.
All to the muscles for you? Just straight to the guns?
It's not the weights. Like I'm trying to work myself into shape here at training camp.
All right. Now I like it. You're getting ready for the season.
Yeah, I'm podcasting myself into shape.
Malone and Christian Braun. We're going to start with Malone. First item of note. Usually they do speeches the night before. And even last night.
This is interesting.
Even last night he said, we're going there, and then we're going to have a dinner. We're going to do a speech. That's usually how we do it. But what happened? Restaurant too loud.
Yeah. See, this is why I think Michael Malone was actually a little
probably
off his game today. It was a little ticked off. He didn't get the traditional opening night dinner speech that he usually does.
And instead they had to do it this morning, which I'm sure lost the luster. Like there is, I will say, can I tell you this though? This is a big deal. These little like totems, this little like,
dude, this is the real stuff. Yeah, this stuff matters.
I mean, it doesn't matter that much, but it matters a little bit. It matters a little bit.
I think so, for some coaches it matters more than most. Like Michael Malone, I really think this stuff matters.
I will tell you this. I think a lot of what you take of what is said in this speech is important for understanding the season. Does it change? Does it evolve? Of course, there's going to be these curveballs. But what is said at that speech to me, and like he obviously reiterates with us, that is his way of saying, guys, this is what the story is about this year. This is the story. And he said that he reinforced the positives of the last 4 years. And I thought it was interesting that he said 4 years. So it wasn't just a lot of this was like looking at last year. But the one he said, I started with the positives of the last 4 years. To me, that's the psychology of, hey, don't forget who we are at our core, the things you do well naturally without having to be reminded. That's who you are at your core. Let's all do that. But here are the 4 things to him that he says are basically going to define the season. Number 1, the home court record. I love this one.
This is a big one.
George Karl smiling after this one, I think. Only 23 home wins last year. He called it ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
He said we had a great road record, on the flip side. And here's what's in it. We're going to get into why that's kind of interesting. But he said our home record, we only won 23 games. We have to take care of home court this year.
It's kind of unexplainable why they were so average at home last year. Like nobody had a good answer the whole year. We asked, we tried to prod. Nobody knew. It was just one of those things.
Is it? I mean, yeah, you could. My theory maybe is that you play more teams from the West at home just because you play more games against the West.
Yeah, but like just their home record last year was an outlier compared to where it's been.
Their road record was an outlier too. So
right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, number 1, a home record is going to be a point of emphasis. I hope that this is a thing where it'll be fun now to talk to the players about this. We'll get Jokic, I'm sure, later in the week. That's one question you want to ask him. Like, how important is it to you to win at home? Just home games. Because I do wonder if it's more of a coach speak thing than it is a player, or if players, I know it is for some players because you hear about it. Like you've heard the Pat Beverleys, the raw guys be like, hey, this is our home court. We make sure people know. They don't know that. Was not the case last year. Number 2, and I love this one, winning our division.
Yes.
And I actually like this one because divisions are pointless. But here's what he says. I asked the guys last night. No one knew what division we were in.
Somebody had to have known they're in the Northwest Division.
I think he switched these 2 things up because then he says some guys didn't even know what teams were in our division. So no one knew what division they were in, but some guys knew what teams were in the division.
I could see some guys not knowing what teams are in the division.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I could see it the opposite way.
Yeah. I feel like somebody probably knew they were in the Northwest Division.
Do you know all 6 divisions? Do you think you could name them all, or do you think there's any that you would? I mean, you could tell the names, but I'm saying, could you give every team and what division they're in?
I think I could. It would take me a minute, though.
I think I could do it rather.
If you gave me 5 minutes, I probably could do
it. Isn't it weird to you that an NBA player wouldn't know a division? Just because you're like, we're fans of sports,
but we're nerds though.
Maybe you're right. It feels weird to me to be like, I could tell you football divisions. I could tell you a bunch of divisions. Like, how could you not know a division in the NBA, let alone your own division? I could get it with like Ish Smith, who's probably, he's like, what, I've been traded a bunch.
Yeah.
But like Jamal Murray didn't know.
He's got to know.
Jokic didn't know.
He's got to know. I mean, Jokic.
You're right. Maybe because he didn't grow up like with the different teams.
He's like, what's
a division?
Jamal Murray's got to know what teams are in the Northwest Division. Come on, Jamal. He's got to know. I think he does.
I don't know, man. Anyway, winning the division again. What I like about what Malone's doing here is he's trying to like get the guys to really focus in on specific games. Not that you're ever not focused, but I do like that it's like, hey, so that throughout the year he can say, hey, this is a home game against a division opponent, guys. Like everybody lock in, instead of saying it's a Tuesday night game, it's like, hey, no, this one has a certain connotation. And by the way, if you win the Northwest, the team that wins the Northwest Division will be, in my opinion, a top 3 seed. My opinion, like the Pacific will have a very good division winner. Well, so what do you got? Houston, San Antonio in the Southwest. You got Houston, San Antonio,
Dallas.
Memphis, Dallas. We're missing one. San Antonio. So like that one might not be a top 3 one. So it really might be a top 2 team that wins. Top 2 or maybe top 3 teams that wins the Northwest.
That's what Malone is doing here. Like there's a formula to get a top 4 seed in the West, which is their goal every year.
But even maybe top 3, top 2,
right?
You
win, you have a great record at home, you win your division, you're going to be at worst the 4th seed in the West.
I should say there was 5 points here, so we're 2 through them. Number 3 was the record versus playoff teams was poor, especially in the West. He said, if you look at the games we lost last year, we lost to all the playoff teams. Now, this is, to me, was the most damning thing when you talked about the Nuggets last year. Like, going into the playoffs, how much confidence did you have in them? It's like not that much because they hadn't beaten all the good teams. Like they kind of lost. And you started doing the playoff matchup, and you're like, okay, all these teams kind of own Denver. Like I don't know. So this one to me, I think was probably just that the team wasn't very good. But I do like the idea of like early on saying, hey, this is how we're going to measure ourselves. We want to every time we go up against a good team to treat it like a measuring stick game. I love this 4th one, being better in the clutch. And I love this.
I love this too.
He said they were 23-17 last year, which was 8th. He's like, that was pretty good. That was pretty good, 23-17. He's like, but you add Jamal Murray and Michael Porter back to this lineup. He's like, we should be first. We want to be first. And I just love that because all these other ones were like, you sucked at this thing. You could be better just naturally. This was one where it was like, you were already good, but look, shouldn't Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, just those 2 guys automatically be one of the most clutch teams in the league?
If you go back and look at the numbers, when those 2 are together on the floor, they're ridiculous in the clutch.
Yeah.
Like the Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic pick and roll.
Yeah.
It's your clutch offense. And you're going to get either a bucket through that or a wide open 3 like every single time.
And then, of course, he talked about defense. He mentioned being 15th in transition. And he put out this great stat. He said they gave up 20 points per game to the Warriors throughout the series.
He's still thinking about
Still thinking about it for sure. Because it is one of those things where you look at it. Look, you can't expect your team to give up 0 points off of turnovers or in transition. But if you give 20 points off of turnovers, the Warriors didn't beat you that bad in games 3, 4, or 5. Like you were right there easily. Just cut that down to 15, 12, whatever it is. Just cut it down. And then I love that he talked about the paint defense obviously being a big thing. Now, here's what I like. And I asked him of this. All right, those are your 5 pillars of the season. Okay, we talked about those are the 5 things he's kind of like worked all summer.
Make the graphic, D-line.
Make the graphic, 5 pillars. What's the common thread? And he says it's discipline. And I agree with this. I think focus and discipline, I would probably use them to me evenly. But he said discipline, and I kind of agree with him. If you want to be – the more I watch the NBA, when you get into the conference finals and the finals, those teams just don't beat themselves, man. Right. Like, are they better or worse than some of the teams that go out in the semifinals? A lot of times they're the same caliber of talents, this or that, and they'll always be like the more experienced team won. A lot of it is because the more experienced team knows that, hey, the thing you can't do here is shoot yourself in the foot. You can't do the things that give them easy points because it's going to be a dogfight. We're both going to have to work so hard for most points. Don't give them 8 easy ones. Don't give them 15 easy ones. And I just loved it. Because to me, I don't know how disciplined this team can be. That's one thing we just haven't seen from them. Even when they won in the bubble, it wasn't off of discipline. They kind of won on talent, this or that, but they fell down in every series. They had some big duds. So I kind of like it. He's throwing out the gauntlet for basically saying, I know who this team is because I've been around most of you guys. I know the guys that we brought in. This is the thing we're not good at. We got to get good at it.
He even called back to last year, too, when talking about discipline. He said something like, guys were late.
So this is
You're
the thing.
to it? Okay.
Well, no, but it's a good point.
Yeah, like guys were late. We weren't focused.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those things, along with what we talked about yesterday, guys not being in the gym before last season.
Right.
Where you don't hear about it in real time.
Yeah.
But then you hear about it after the fact and you're like, oh, I guess that makes sense.
I think that's what is funny, man. I put this together as well, where I was like, okay, they didn't talk about that last year about guys not always being in the gym, and then all guys are showing up late to everything.
Yeah. Weird.
But then, and this is why his phrase this year, don't talk about it, be about it. This is like he wants
make the shirt, right?
Yeah,
now.
you got to make the shirt. I'm sure there is. Well, this sounds like a Nike shirt from 1998. I think I wore this at a camp one time.
Or like an and one shirt.
The
big letters.
Yeah, big letters. And one. Skyview Camp 1991. I was all Mr. Defense in the camp.
Put it on the back of a pair of shorts.
So, but Malone is trying to set this tone. And honestly, I'm curious to follow this along, because is there anybody on the team that you feel like I'm kind of surprised to imagine this team having guys that are showing up late and this or that. Like, they don't seem to have the knuckleheads of the Ty Lawson era and the Nate Robinson. So
yeah, I don't know.
So I thought all of those things from him coming in were really, really, big. Let me see here. Do I have another one from Michael Malone?
What about Jamal and Bones?
Where is this here?
We got some rotation talk today.
Oh,
we got that, and we got the bench.
Okay. I'm trying to find it here because
I can go over the bench real quick.
Go for it. Go through the lineups, because he gave us who was first, second, and third teams today.
First practice today, he was asked about the rotations, blah, blah, blah. Starters are set in stone. We know that. Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. The bench at today's practice number 1, was Bones Highland, Bruce Brown, Davon Reed, Jeff Green, DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan at center.
First practice of the year. That was the bench lineup.
Can I tell you? Okay, go and give third team now. Give third team. Today, the yellow shirts.
Christian Brown.
Yeah.
Vlatko.
Peyton. Well, here, I'll go in order for you. So it's Ish Smith. I'll go in order. Ish Smith, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, Vlatko Chanchar. Zeke basically in third. Now, day one of practice, these things can change.
And Malone even said it's still fluid. We're going to try out different things, blah, blah, blah. But this was day 1.
But immediately after that, what he actually says is we're going to move lineups around. And then he says Bones and Jamal have to develop chemistry. We'll take Jamal out early, bring him back with that second unit. Mm-hmm. We've wondered a lot about, like, in my mind, Michael Porter is the guy that staggers. Like, he's the guy. Michael Malone today, again, none of this is definitive. It's day 1. But he did go immediately when going through the first team, second team, third team today, at least, he immediately segued that into Bones and Jamal need to develop a chemistry because we want to play them together, in the stagger. And to me, I just was a little bit surprised by that. Again, it's too early to start to I don't think we should overanalyze it, but I just was a little surprised to hear that as an emphasis today.
Yeah, it's been one of the offseason questions.
No.
What does the bench look like? Is there a stagger?
Right.
And we got an answer. I mean, at least initially here, it seems like Jamal and Bones, they're going to get a lot of playing time together, and I love it. Like, I love that pairing.
Michael Malone said that he feels that the defense is the same. The only thing he said was that DeAndre Jordan is a different type of center than anything they had last year, and so they probably will have different type of defense when he's on the court. But that most of what they're going to be doing is the same. And he basically just said DeAndre Jordan will be down the floor.
He'll be playing drop.
He'll be playing a little bit more drop. He'll drop a little bit further. That's kind of what he'll be doing. But here's actually the real differences, because he actually did provide a very interesting difference for the defense here. They have to get more diverse and creative with their defense, more zone and different types of zone, which I actually love. I actually love this. I think the Nuggets, one of their keys to success is zone defense. So I love the idea of not just playing more zone, mixing in more zone. He said last year we basically did it on out of bounds plays.
Yeah.
But now we're going to try to go to more zone and mix in different types of zone. And then he said different types of press. Why do you laugh at this? I think it's good. You need the personnel for. Well, here's why I think it's great. Who do you have on your team now? You've got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You've got Aaron Gordon. You've got Bruce Brown. You got Davon Reed, who we're going to say. We got Christian Brown. You got Peyton Watson if he's going to end up playing. Why not use those guys to full court press and just work guys out? Like, if you're telling me Bruce Brown, who's a bench player and he's not going to be playing maybe 30 plus minutes a night, he's probably south of that. Why not use him to guard the Chris Pauls when he's out there? Hey, full court press. You're not going to be as tired as Chris Paul will be.
Yeah.
You don't play as many minutes, so wear him out.
I totally agree. I think it's great. They should definitely do that. When it comes to the zone, though, and like mixing that stuff up, I think we hear this every training camp.
Okay, that's why you're laughing. So you feel like this is a little bit of coach speak, and then they just don't do it?
Everybody wants to try out new stuff, like entering the season. Everybody wants to try out like different schemes, and we're going to draw this zone up, and maybe they'll do it, and it'll work and be great. I remember hearing that last training camp too, and we didn't see a lot of it during the season. So maybe we will this year, but I feel like I've heard it before.
I think they have the personnel to do it.
They do. They absolutely do.
I'm telling you, this is a veteran group.
I'd be a fan of it.
This is a veteran group, and part of like what's hard about trying to have too complex of anything is when you have players that are young, they don't know how to do anything. So you can either teach them to do 3 things really well or 10 things really badly. But now when you have a veteran group, maybe you can expect a little bit more out of them in terms of the diversity. And then I like this part. He was asked specifically about MPJ. And he said something about, I'm a big believer, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And I think MPJ knows that, and he's trying to get better, meaning he's not just coming back the same player. He thinks Porter's coming back a better player. But here's what he talked about. How can he improve? And this is something, Harrison, I've heard a lot. I think we talked about it last year. Discipline within his offensive spacing. What does that mean? Get to the corner. And this is a thing I've heard about Michael Porter from different people, over the, last couple of years. He's so good when he gets to the corner. There's numbers on this. When he gets to the corner, the team scores. Either he knocks down threes or he gets rebounds. It just changes the geometry of the court. But the problem is he stops at the wing a lot because that's his comfort zone. He loves the wing. And so he's saying, have discipline with your spacing. Don't stop above the break. Have the discipline to get to the corners every single time. If you're on the break, sprint to the corners. And guess what? If you watch Steph Curry, this is why I say we talk about Steph Curry as the most influential player. But players often only copy the parts of his game that are fun.
Yeah.
Like the deep threes or off the dribble or step back and sidestep. One of the things Steph Curry does so great is he sprints to the corners in transition. Like he sprints there. He's not doing anything else. He's just like sprinting as fast as he can to get to the corners. And to me, this is what I've just heard this so many times. And I can tell that this is going to be the thing with him of like, listen, Michael, you are Steph Curry when you get to that spot. Get there though. Just make that your home.
I'm going to give the Nuggets coaching staff a little tip here. A little something.
Oh, wow. Coach Wind?
Yeah, here we go. You remember how the Bucks put those X's on the court where those like spots above the 3-point line?
Yeah.
Put an X in each corner.
Maybe
they did already and I just didn't see it, but put a white X in each corner with tape where Michael Porter Jr. is supposed to run every time down.
I like this. So what the Bucks did was they would put a spot that was because they wanted you to be behind the on the wing.
Yeah.
They didn't want you to be towed to the line. They wanted you to be like one full step behind there. Right. So you're taking an extra deep three, but they believe the small reduction in your percentage was worth the extra spacing that it created. Just had this effect. What I like is when you scrimmage, you could do this if you're a coaching staff. You turn the Michael Porter making a corner 3-pointer in the box worth 4.
There you go.
That's a 4-pointer.
There you go.
So you just play these little games where it's like trying to get psychologically in a head. Hey, that's when you get there.
To the
X,
4. 4 points.
Yeah, 4 points automatically. So, and then moving with the ball, he talked about this is a team. You have to trust the ball. He even called him out. He said like we all played. Everybody had turnovers. Everybody had bad moments.
Yeah.
And he's like, Michael, I think had some shots tonight where it's like, hey, in the scrimmaging, like, hey, you have to trust that the ball is going to find you. We lead the league in passes per game as a team, the Nuggets last year. This is what we do.
That's our identity.
If ever there was a team to trust, don't force anything. Just trust that it's coming back to you. It's this team. And then the last thing he said, I think he understands the growth that he needs to continue to make on the defensive end of the floor. He knows that he will be a target. And then he made this line in the finals. Nobody on that was able to hide, and there was nobody on the court that needed to be hidden. So he said the challenge for him is that over the course of the season, prove that you don't have to be hidden on defense. And he said not just him, that we have guys that need to be hidden. He's like, but for Michael, he was asked specifically about him. So he said for him, get to the point where we don't, you don't feel like you're going to be targeted. And he said, and Michael understands that. This wasn't a contentious like, oh, well, you think I'm the problem. No, it was like Michael understands that he wants it and he's working towards it.
This was a talking point 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Now. I remember it distinctly. Like, this was a big thing because defenses were targeting Michael Porter Jr. It was the correct decision, and they were exploiting him.
Right.
And I remember, 2 years ago now, late in that season, he was making strides.
Right.
He really was making strides defensively to a point where it wasn't just an automatic bucket or an automatic foul when he got switched on to guys.
Because that's the thing. It's like like Porter is actually really good defensively in specific things. He's not a complete defensive player. Yep. The same way Jokic isn't. I have a theory because I don't think any bigs in the NBA are. None of them can guard. But I'm just saying, like, Jokic as a post-up defender is great. Jokic as a rebounder is great. There's things Jokic does that are like elite level defense. With Michael Porter, there's things he does that are elite level. Fewer things, but there are things he does. But it's can you now? We don't want to have to cover. We just want you to be able to switch because somebody ISOing you is not, hey, we'll live with it.
And just the tough thing is, like I was saying, that was 2 years ago. And now, he's still trying to get past
he missed a whole year.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's what's tough about it. But I mean, that is the next frontier he has to get to defensively.
Yeah. And then he said that with Jamal, Michael, he's reiterated this a few times. With the big three, Jokic, Jamal, and Michael Porter, they are all coming off, 2 guys off injury, Jokic off Eurobasket. He says they need to have a voice in the discussion about whether or not they play. And I love this because I feel like this is Malone's not being fully honest. We'll see. He's saying something that he might end up not being able to follow through with. He said, Jokic said he feels great. Yep. He wants to practice tomorrow. We talked about maybe having him sit out day 2 of practice, right? Jokic, a veteran,
he's practicing.
He doesn't want to. And then Malone says, look, as a coach, if a guy wants to practice, I'm not going to say you're not practicing. And he meant that about Jokic. And then I think he immediately realized, well, that's a Jokic rule. That's probably not a Jamal Murray, Michael Porter rule. And he immediately walked it back. He's like, if a guy wants to practice, I'm not going to say you're not practicing. But also we understand that this is going to take some time to get where we want to go. So he immediately said something that felt great. And then was like, crap, that's not.
Yeah. But also Jokic, where he's at coming off Eurobasket is different than,
of course,
Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. coming off surgeries.
But if you're wondering how Jokic feels, great.
Right?
Yeah, great. Doesn't want to sit out.
Yeah, so ready to go.
On the other side, we're going to get quick. Christian Braun didn't have a whole lot, but we'll get to the notes that he had from today, as well as answer all of your questions in the chat in the last segment.
Evoca TV is the GOAT in Colorado sports, the greatest of all TV. They've got Altitude Sports, AT&T Sportsnet. They've got other national channels as well, over 60 entertainment channels, including news, movies, and more. You can get Evoca for $25 a month plus a $5 receiver fee, but right now, you guys can go to evoca.tv/Colorado10, evoca.tv/Colorado10. You get $10 off your Evoca TV subscription per month for your first 3 months. So go to evoca.tv/Colorado10, evoca.tv/Colorado10 to get $10 off your Evoca TV subscription for your first 3 months. Also, Game Time tickets. Download the Game Time app. There's so many random sites out there to buy tickets on. You're going through them all, trying to compare what tickets are cheapest, what site has the best deals, where the service fees lower.
It's Game Time.
Don't worry about all that. Download the Game Time tickets app. The link is in the description on YouTube, or if you're listening via podcast, it's in the description as well. It's the hottest new ticketing site on the market. It makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Join over 15 million people who have download the Game Time app. Go support us, support DNVR, and buy tickets through that Game Time link in the description, both on YouTube and on the podcast if you're listening there.
We back?
We're back.
All right, guys, segment 3, real quickly, let's go over Christian Braun. I get to you, I always tell you, this is my first note. I always tell you that I'm 6'5". I just always like to size myself up with the guys that are 6'5", 6'6", whatever.
With these guys.
Yeah, I just want to see if they're lying. Down. I want to see if they're the Gary Harris 6'5", which is 6'3", or if they're a legit. He's 6'7". He's like meaningfully taller than me.
He did look tall today.
He looked really, really tall today, man. I'm just saying, like,
standing up straight.
Again, we were joking about this on the ride over. Negative wingspan. This guy has wingspan 6'6". If he was a shooting guard at 6'4" with a 6'6" wingspan, we'd be like, oh, good wingspan because of this or that. Like, to me, Christian Braun, I honestly think he has like above average measurables for a shooting guard.
He's got great size for a shooting guard. I think he's got a frame that's going to fill out as well. He's got great size there.
His notes today. I love this first one. This is his first day playing with Jokic.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, what stood out? And he goes, he's really good. He's like, he threw some passes today that really stood out. Like, you got to be ready.
Pretty good player.
Pretty good.
Can score a little bit.
I love this one. He said this biggest difference between college practices and NBA practices is he said college practices, the coaches are on top of you the whole time. They're like, there's no, everybody's locked in this or that. And he said in the NBA, everybody's expected to handle their business, meaning no coach is sitting there just, you see college practices, they're constantly yelling at you like, water break, 3 minutes, let's go.
Get on the baseline.
Yeah. NBA, they're like, you guys are adults. Like, everybody kind of handle your own business. And that's kind of how he put it, is everybody, he said you get more space to do things because everybody is expected to be able to handle that, which I just thought was a cool little note. He also said nothing was new today. Like, he's been in the gym basically since summer league.
Yeah.
So he said, with all the terminology today, day one of camp, you're going over a lot of, this is how we do the fundamentals. Every team does them different, by the way. Like, are you trying to force shade this way? Are you trying to rotate, like, this or that? He's like, we'd already been over all that. So today, at least, there was nothing new. He's like, I know there will be some new stuff coming up, but today at least was
that's the value of young guys sticking in Colorado in the offseason.
Sure, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's been in the league. He's like, oh, we do it this way. We call it that. Okay, got it. Like, boom. That's what training camp is for. 5 days in, you're like, cool, I got it. Young guys, they need these concepts. He's been going through them for long enough that he kind of got them. Let's see. He did say, though, that Jokic makes things different. So he's like, some of the stuff that I've already been doing, he's like doing it with Jokic. He's like, there's just little differences. So he said he's picking
it's probably
up
a little different playing with Jokic than it is playing with
DeAndre Jordan,
Udoka Azubuike.
I
think he played with him at Kansas, probably.
And then he also said Ish Smith, he singled him out as another guy that was like, has unique things about him that
he's very unique.
He's a unique player. So, man, by the way, Ish Smith, his 3-point shot, have you seen it?
Yeah.
I did not know. Did you?
He doesn't take any threes.
He doesn't. Yeah, that's why I must not have known.
It's like Derek Fisher right-handed.
yeah.
The right-handed Derek Fisher.
Yeah, you're kind of right about it.
It's a little jarring.
All right, super producer KO, we got some questions here in the chat. What do we want to go to here to wrap up? Dragutin Markovic says, notice any new friendships? I love this one.
This is why we're here.
It's only day one, guys. Like, it's day one.
When I was talking to Bruce Brown, Christian Braun was right there, and they were having a little
Brown and Brown
back and forth, Brown on Brown.
That sounded terrible. Never say that again. Never say that again.
Brown on Braun.
All right, what else we got? So the answer to that question is a good question. I'd
probably too early to tell.
Too early. Honestly, yesterday was the day where we were like, oh, DeAndre and Jeff, thick as thieves.
Yeah, definitely DeAndre and Jeff. Like, those guys can probably do everything together this year.
Yeah,
I heard they're going to a Dodger Padre game together.
Can't get out these details, man. All right, what else we got? Fernando says, which player do you see playing their way into the rotation, into a rotation spot or losing one? Again, it's day one. So if we just go off of, let's just pretend that today's rotation is the actual depth chart.
It might be.
Which it might be. Again, Christian Braun, to me, I'm just putting I'm staking my claim on Christian Braun Island. I think he could beat out Davon Reed. Zeke Naji.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Zeke Naji would be the next guy.
Those are the two rotation spots that are the least cemented. Backup small forward, backup center.
There you go.
And Zeke Naji, Christian Braun would be the ones playing into those spots.
I don't think, by the way, anybody should read too far into the depth chart. If that's the depth chart in 1 week, I do think you could probably read into it a little bit, but I don't know that we need to.
I think it's notable that
it is noteworthy.
Day one, that's what they want to.
Yep. And that Michael Malone didn't necessarily specifically go out of his way to be like, don't read into that. He actually went somewhere else with it. Corey says, if the Nuggets figure out they aren't going to use Zeke, do you think they should try to use him to go after Jay Crowder? So here's
Are you listening into like our private conversations?
Well, it's funny, man. Like Jay Crowder.
Are we bugged?
Jay Crowder, he is the type of player you could use. This is too premature for me. This is too premature.
They want to trade.
They want to trade. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder's a good player. I think he's a little. Jay Crowder might also have a shelf life. Like we talk about Chris Paul has a shelf life.
His shelf life might be
like one
winding
season.
down.
Yeah. Well, there's that, the overarching one. But I just mean that like Jay Crowder might be a good guy for a year.
He wears out his welcome.
He wears out his welcome after a year.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, man.
The thing about Jay Crowder, it'd be a risky play to get him because he's pretty volatile. Like if he didn't like his role coming off the bench with the Suns, would he really like his role here?
You're not playing over Michael Porter. You're not playing over Aaron Gordon.
But the thing is, who are you going to play in the playoffs? Jay Crowder or Zeke Naji? Jay Crowder.
I can't believe I forgot this. You know who Jokic's favorite is that's outside of the starting lineup?
Who?
Who's his favorite outside of the lineup? Who does he love? Who has he raved about twice now? 2 days we've seen him. Media day and today.
Jokic or Murray?
I guess, did you miss Michael Malone? You were there.
Yeah.
It's Bruce Brown.
Oh my, yeah. You said Jokic.
I meant Jamal Murray. I meant Michael Malone. Sorry.
Yeah, I asked him about Bruce Brown, and he
went off for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And what he said is that, first of all, he gave these anecdotes, talking about, when he was available 48 hours, I called him and I was like, how are you still available? This or that. It sounded like a coach story that, whatever.
It's the type of story that goes in the book after the Nuggets win the championship.
No, what it
chapter 10.
No, what it is every year this happens, right? He was available at 6. We had him number 1 on our board. We actually would have taken him if we had the number 1 pick, we were going to take him, but we took him 28th.
Yeah.
You're like, come on, man. Come on. Anyway, that was a Bruce Brown story. But he was like, I love this guy. And here's what he said. He's like, this is his 5th year. You'd think he was a 10-year veteran,
right?
The way he carries himself, the way he does everything. And that's been my impression too. Michael Malone loves Bruce Brown. Here's my hot take. Bruce Brown's playing a lot of minutes this year. I don't know where, but
Michael Malone said it today. He goes, Bruce Brown is going to close a lot of games for us.
Oh, man, did he said that one? I didn't catch that one.
That today.
He's laying the tracks. I believe that is going to be the case. All right, what else?
Michael Malone loving Bruce Brown.
The lock. That was a lock.
The biggest lock of a storyline.
Do you have updated trading camp predictions? What are the DraftKings lines for MVP of training camp?
Bruce Brown moving into pole position, minus 150.
He went from plus 500 to minus.
He's got to be the favorite, right? Bruce Brown, training camp MVP.
Man.
Bones, maybe minus 100.
We'll find out. When's the Ariana Lenarski episode? Absolutely.
Great
Probably
question.
in like a week or two. I mean, it's coming up. It's not far off. I got to reach out to her. You know what's funny? I had one of my good buddies sent me a tweet the other day and it was hers. Like just randomly. He's like, look what I saw. This is hilarious. I was like, dude, that's my witch.
Well, she probably crosses over into a lot of circles.
It was a tweet of something about like, we shouldn't tell anybody about planets until you're 16. And we should be like, guess what?
She dabbles in NBA tarot card reading, but she has a lot of other hidden talents as well.
Is it because she's the GOAT? She's the absolute GOAT. That's my witch. Maybe next week. I mean, it's coming up. Ben says, how was hanging with Lord Stanley, and do you think him and Denver will increase the Nuggets' chances for a chip? Were you there?
I did. I touched Lord Stanley.
Wow.
I got a picture with it. It was cool. It was very cool. Do I think having him in Denver will increase the Nuggets' chances for a chip?
Can we dream in?
Maybe.
A back-to-back parade. What do you think happens? Because it always is like a week before. If the Avs won the cup and the Nuggets are up 1-0 in the NBA Finals, do you think they delay the thing and be like, let's do a joint parade? Or do you think they just like, let's do a parade, and if the Nuggets win, we'll do one in a week?
Back-to-back parades, has it ever been done before? Probably not.
Man, I don't know. We'd have to go.
I don't
probably,
think
but Boston won like 12 championships in like 5 years.
But hockey basketball is so back-to-back.
You're right.
You can do Patriots,
You're
Red
right.
Sox.
That's a great point. They're months apart.
Hockey basketball, it's so close together, but you can't do just one parade. You can't combine them.
I love that we're trying to figure out.
Kroenke's probably save some money though.
They're all crammed onto one bus. Like, damn, there's no room on here.
We got Jokic, and McKinnon, and Makar, and Jamal Murray on the same fire truck.
They're just using the DNVR party bus. Oh, that went dark really fast. All right, what else we got? Lamar says, would a run and gun up-tempo play style work with the second unit? Take advantage of the altitude like Coach Carl's teams did. I love this. So I think it was Joel Rush on the timeline the other day. I don't know if you saw. He had an article whereby he showed Bones Highland plays at a fast pace. This is one of the things about him is he just has a motor and he gets the ball up the court quickly, whether that's hit-ahead passes he's very good at or just dribbling it up. Contavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown apparently both also play super fast. So now the question becomes, is it like an immovable object or unstoppable force, right? Murray plays really, really slow. Jokic plays pretty slow. Bones plays super fast. KCP, Bruce Brown plays super fast. So I'm curious to see, do the Nuggets play faster this year? Are there configurations where they play fast? Is there something to
maybe
that?
The bench plays fast.
Does the bench play fast with DeAndre Jordan? Come on, man.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know if they're going to play fast. So anyway, should they? I think yes. Why not use the altitude to your advantage? I mean, it's a real advantage. Might as well use it.
Yeah. I think it just comes back to like Jokic and Jamal are
but that's the first
core
unit
of everything you do.
He's really talking about a bench unit. The one thing I will say,
sure, yeah, I mean,
the one thing I will say is that your starters are going to win their possessions. You don't, when you play slow with your starters and fast with your bench, even if your starters are playing more minutes, it normalizes because you play more possessions with your bench. So you want, if your bench is good, play fast because it's like you have an advantage there, especially if they're good at playing fast. But you don't necessarily want them playing fast if they're like blowing leads.
Right.
You know,
play fast, I'm going to sound like Michael Malone. To play fast, you have to get stops, though.
Yeah, you do have to get stops. That's a great point. All right, what else we got? Alex says, DNVR, what should we look for from MPJ to signify some defensive improvements? Man, that's a good question. I mean, Michael Porter had a couple like blown assignments, things where like in years past where it's, if you don't make mistakes, again, guys still have to make shots. Even if you like, oh, I'm slow and I'm on skates and an ISO, the guy still has to make the shot over you, right? This or that. So just don't get the ones where you're like, oh, we blew the assignment. We both switched out onto this guy and they got a wide open dunk that was like impossible for them to miss. So to me, that would be it, just limiting the mistakes. And then the part I would say, if you want to talk about a real humper where Michael Porter could be really valuable, he's so athletic, he's so long, he jumps so high, he's so quick getting up in the air that to me, if he's doing that a lot, if he's just like constantly in good rotations defensively, I'd be like, man, look at that. He's standing out because he's always blocking shots.
Yeah. Also, how you're going to know if he's improving defensively and if Michael Malone sees that he's improving and there's that trust there, he's going to be on the floor at the end of close games.
Yeah.
Because if he's not improving defensively, it's probably going to be Bruce Brown.
Yeah. All right, what else we got? I don't know how to say that. Vyacheslav Perpich. Do you have enough Rakia shots?
How serious you are pronouncing the names.
I like to try. Do you have enough Rakia shots for regular season? We have 6 bottles of. We have 6 bottles.
Some of the finest Rakia in Serbia.
I will say we had 7, and we all had discussed, using those this year for the Winners Lodge. Vote drank it the very first day he was back. He drank his bottle. Very first day.
The entire bottle in a day?
Don't you remember? He was in like New York. He flew back to New York. He drank it all.
Oh, that's right.
So we have 6 bottles.
Going to like
probably not. That's probably not enough, to be honest. We need
There's going to be a lot of Winners Lounges.
We need our guy Marco to come through with some homemade, some of that homegrown. All right, what do we got?
Is that it?
Is that it? Are we all done? That's all we got. All right, Kale, cue that outro music, guys. Day 1 training camp in the books. It's so good to have things to talk about. You know what? We just talked about what we saw today.
Lots to talk about. There was a lot going on today. We didn't even do one snake draft this offseason.
Is that true?
Like. Might have done one.
We might have done 1 or 2. That was it. It's fun, man. It's excited. I think we're gonna have some exciting guests while we're out here, or at least one. And it just should be good. Like as you go through this, more and more themes pick up. It was kind of funny today. Like even as Nuggets PR is like, all right, who do you guys want? It's like, well, we talked to them yesterday. They had 1 practice. And now it feels almost a little bit weird because so little has happened. But nonetheless, this thing, as time goes on, you start to pick up more and more themes, more and more. You asked us like, who's becoming buddy? Guys, we saw these guys so.
We'll probably know more tomorrow. Ask that question again tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing that. Hit that like button on the way out. Harrison Wynn cooking up something great for you guys on thednvr.com. We'll see you guys then.